Salwette ladies. Welcome to your first video in Foundations. Today we are going to be talking about Latin nouns. So as we start to learn basic Latin grammar and of course work on our English grammar, we are going to be approaching this mostly through the different parts of speech. There are 8 parts of speech. Those consist of nouns, pronouns. Ooh, my little finger isn't working. Okay. Nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, conjunctions, prepositions, and interjections. Okay, so I want you to write all of those down in your notes. And the first part of speech that we're going to be dealing with today are nouns. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about nouns. Nouns are persons, places, things, ideas. They can also be sort of abstract things. But the most important thing about a noun is how it functions in a sentence. Now, common functions for nouns in a sentence, whether that sentence be a Latin sentence or an English sentence, are listed here. One of the most common functions is the subject of the sentence. Another very common function is the direct object of the sentence. And then you also have nouns that are functioning as the indirect object and as possessives, meaning that they are possessing other nouns. Now let me go through and give you a general definition. Again, you should be writing this down in your notes of each of the functions. So, the subject of a sentence tells you who or what is doing the action of the verb. The direct object of a sentence essentially answers the question, what, after you say the verb. It is the thing that is most directly affected by the action of the verb. The indirect object is also affected by the action of the verb, but in a more indirect way. Usually you can find the indirect object by asking to whom or for whom the action of the verb is being done. And then of course possession is when one thing has ownership or possession over another. Now, knowing what the functions are for nouns is one thing, but being able to figure out the functions is completely different. In English, we can figure out the functions of the nouns based on the word order, so where the noun is placed in the sentence. This works for simple sentences and also more complex ones. So let's look at this first simple sentence. The girl loves the boy. Now, a lot of this hinges on the action of the verb, loves. Who loves? The answer to that question will be your subject. The subject loves what or who? The answer to that question will be your direct object. A more complicated sentence requires us to pay a little bit closer attention to the functions, but again, the basic rules apply. In our sentence, the farmer's daughter gives roses to the boy. The action is giving, that's our verb. Who is giving? The answer to that is our subject. What is the subject giving? The answer to that is our direct object. And to or for whom is the subject giving? The answer to that is our indirect object. That really just leaves one last noun, the farmers, and then we have to figure out how that particular noun is working. So our simple sentence, the girl, subject, is doing the action of the verb, loves, and who does she love? The boy. Now, I want to spend a little more time on our more complex sentence. The farmer's daughter gives roses to the boy. The daughter is the one doing the action of the verb. She's the one giving, so she is the subject. What is she giving? She's giving roses, so that's the direct object. To whom or for whom is she giving the roses? Well, that is the boy, So that is our indirect object. And then we know from this apostrophe S that the farmer is the possessive, right? He is possessing the daughter. Now, I've written out this sentence one more time in a different word order that still is accurate in English. So, the farmer's daughter gives roses to the boy can also be said, the daughter of the farmer gives the boy roses. In this example, instead of using the S apostrophe to show possession, I'm using the prepositional phrase of the farmer. He is still possessing the daughter. And instead of saying that she gives roses to the boy, I'm saying she gives the boy roses. The boy is still the indirect object and roses are still the direct object, even though we switched around the word order a little bit. Again, ask your questions of the verb. What is she giving? Roses. To whom is she giving the roses? The boy. So he's still our direct object. Roses are still our direct object. This kind of option on how you express this sentence isn't really, isn't even possible in Latin, because Latin doesn't rely on word order to tell you the function of the nouns. Instead, you need to know the case endings. Now, we're not going to learn any of the case endings today. We're just going to learn how to use the case endings. And so this is what I want you guys to take away from this little video. There are 6 cases in Latin. They are comprised of the nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, ablative, and vocative. And each one of these cases will tell you how the noun is functioning in a sentence. So if you have a noun that is in the nominative, that is telling you that that noun is the subject of the sentence. So nominative is the subject. If you have a noun in the genitive, that is telling you that that noun is showing possession. Okay, this is our possessive case, genitive. Dative will tell you that that noun is the indirect object. Accusative tells you that it's the direct object. Ablative tells you, well, here's the thing. Ablative tells you a lot of things. So we're going to talk about the ablative more in future videos. For right now, let's just skip the ablative. And the vocative will tell you that the noun is the thing being addressed in a sentence. And again, we're going to talk about the vocative more in a later video, so let's just hold off on that one. Okay, make sure you've taken good notes on this video. Go back through the video if you need to make sure you didn't miss anything, and I will see you lovely ladies in class. Good night.